How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun Daled, Daf 54 of Masechta Gittin. Friends, what do you want me to tell you, friends? What do you want me to tell you? Not such a pashut daf. That's what I've been telling you, Chebe. These dafs aren't so pashut. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? I mean, they're not like insane or anything, but what that was it? Not Nun Daled? All right. Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's just not easy, you know. It's not easy. So we're gonna go weiter. Yesterday we were talking about Hezek Sheinu Nicker Shmei Hezek or not. We mentioned we wanted to say it was Machlokas Tanoi between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. We ended up saying no, everybody agrees Hezek Sheinu Nicker Lo Shmei Hezek. And then basically what we said, right? Because then we quoted a brisa where Reb Yehuda, yesterday we had started with a Mishnah, right? In that Mishnah we said that by mitame, midamea, and menaseh potter, if it's by accident, b'shogeg is potter, b'mezid chayiv. And then we saw a brisa which says that that's the opinion of Reb Yehuda, and Reb Meir would say bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid chayiv. Then we asked the Akasha, and we said, but wait a second. On Shabbos, a fellow who cooks on Shabbos, so b'shogeg, so Reb Meir says b'shogeg ye'achol, he can eat it. B'mezid lo ye'achol, he can't eat it. Reb Yehuda Be'etzim says that whether it's b'shogeg, whether it's b'mezid, he can't eat it, at least not on Shabbos. So we said, how come, right, these are reverse positions, right? When it comes to mitame, menasech, mitame, midameh, menasech, Reb Meir says that bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, it's chayiv. And Reb Yehuda says b'shogeg, potter, b'mezid, chayiv. And when it comes to Shabbos, it's fakert. That Reb Meir is saying that b'shogeg ye'achol b'mezid lo ye'achol, and Reb Meir is saying bein b'shogeg bein b'mezid lo ye'achol be'etzim. So we had then said that, well, when it comes to mitame, midamea, maybe not menasech, that was a different shaila because sketchkis, but by those it's derabonon. By derabonons, Reb Meir says that we need more chizik, right, to make sure that nobody's going to take it lighter because it's derabonon. So therefore, Reb Meir says that by derabonons we need extra chizik, and therefore bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid yichayev. Whereas by bishul on Shabbos, which is deoraisa, doesn't need as much chizik, and therefore b'shogeg is potter. Now, Reb Shogeg ye'achol. Whereas Reb Yehuda says fakert. He says that by derabonons, it's only derabonons. We don't need to right. B'shogeg is potter, but by Shabbos, by bishul, which is deoraisa, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, he's gonna lo ye'achol. So that was kind of the intro. Just a reminder really about yesterday to catch us up to speed. So now the Gemara jumps right in and says, V'rami d'Reb Meir ad d'Reb Meir. So now, however, we have a kasha. Now, as Rashi points out, you can also ask the kasha according to Reb Yehuda. Okay, say it. But we're asking the kasha now on Reb Meir. V'rami d'Reb Meir ad d'Reb Meir. But I don't understand. We said that according to Reb Meir, by the Oraisis, one second, is my glasses? No, they're fine. We had said that according to Reb Meir, by the Oraisis, you don't need right? You don't need special chizik, and therefore, by bishul on Shabbos, b'shogeg ye'achol, b'mezid lo ye'achol. But one second, when it comes to the Oraisa, the Tanya is within the Oraisa, haneteya b'Shabbos, a fellow who plants on Shabbos, b'shogeg yikayim b'mezid ye'achol. So if he does it by accident, so you could leave it. But if he did it on purpose, he has to uproot it. But now here's the kasha. Uvashvius, when it comes to shmita, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'achol. Whether he does it by accident, whether he does it on purpose, you have to uproot it, you have to rip it out. So, divrei Reb Meir, that's Reb Meir's opinion. So, on the one hand, by when it comes to bishul on Shabbos, which is deoraisa, so Reb Meir says, b'shogeg ye'achol, b'mezid lo ye'achol. And yet when it comes to shmita, he's saying, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'achol. You have to rip it out to the ground. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda Bashvius, when it comes to Shemitah, B'shogeg Yikayim, b'mezid ye'aker. If it's by accident, you can keep it, but on purpose you have to get rid of it. U'v'Shabbos, yet when it comes to Shabbos, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'aker, you have to uproot it, whether it's b'shogeg or b'mezid, which is also kasha in Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda had said that by Shabbos, by bishul, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid lo ye'achol. Yet over here, he's saying that by Shvius, by Shemitah, which is the Oraisa, b'shogeg yikayim, saying you can keep it. Okay, Seder. We'll ask that later. So now, where am I? B'Shabbos bein b'shogeg b'mezid yokar. Fine. Now, so the kasha that we asked was that on the one hand, Reb Meir is saying that when it comes to bishul, b'shogeg ye'achol, b'mezid lo ye'achol, and yet when it comes to Shemitah, Reb Meir says bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'achor. Right? If you plant during Shemitah, so whether you did it on purpose, whether you did it by accident, you have to uproot it. So how come he's not saying that b'shogeg yikayim, you can keep it? But then the Gemara points out, as you may have been thinking yourselves, with the time gufa. But one second, if you just look at the brisa itself, michti, I don't understand. Hadoraisa v'hadoraisa. Both Shemitah and Shabbos are doraisa, right? Meaning, in this brisa, Reb Meir is saying that when it comes to planting on Shabbos, b'shogeg yikayim b'mezid ye'aker. Yet when it comes to planting on Shemitah, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'aker. Now, what's with the distinction there? How come both Shabbos and the Oraisa, planting on Shabbos and planting during Shemitah are the Oraisa? So how come on Shabbos b'shogeg yikayim and on Shemitah b'shogeg ye'aker? So mashna Shabbos, so mashna Shvius. What's the difference between Shabbos and Shvius? Elohos kitiktoni time. Rather, when it comes to that other brisa with Shemitah and Shabbos, with planting, the Reb Meir explains himself. Reb Meir says, "Mipnei ma'ani omer b'Shabbos b'shogeg yikayim b'mezid ye'aker b'Shvius b'shogeg b'mezid ye'aker." No, Reb Meir says, "Look, I'll explain myself. I'm going to read that again. Mipnei ma'ani omer. How come I say b'Shabbos that when it comes to planting on Shabbos, b'shogeg yikayim, if you did it by accident, you can leave it b'mezid ye'aker, but if you did it on purpose, you have to rip it out. However, uv'Shvius, when it comes to Shemitah, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'aker." Whether you did it by accident, whether you did it intentionally, ye'aker, you have to rip it out. Here's the answer, very simple. Or not simple, but here's the answer. Not simple. It's an answer in a Gemara that we have to use our brains for. So it's an answer. He gives an answer. Because the Yidden count backwards to Shemitah, whereas they don't count backwards to Shabbos. What does that mean? It means that, of course, there's a halacha that we learned way back when on Daf Lamed Hey or Lamed Vav of Masechta Brachos. Was it Daf Lamed Hey of Masechta Brachos? Who could tell me? Maybe Daf Lamed Hey of Masechta Brachos, maybe? That Neta Ravai, right? That when you plant epis, so for the first 3 years it's oily, you can't eat it. In the fourth year, you bring it to Yerushalayim. So if anybody sees you, with your Neta Ravai, that you're bringing your fruits of the fourth year to Yerushalayim, they're going to say, "Oh wow, it's year 4. I guess 4 years ago must have been." What? That can't be. 4 years ago was Shemitah. He planted this tree during Shemitah? I guess you're allowed to plant trees during Shemitah, and people are going to then start planting trees in Shemitah, which is Shver Zach. We don't want that. So because people count back to Shemitah, people will do the math, and if you plant during Shemitah, people are going to get the wrong idea. People are going to realize, and think that you could plant during Shemitah. So therefore, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'aker. However, when it comes to Shabbos, nobody's counting back. Did you plant on Shabbos? I don't know. Maybe you planted Monday or Sunday. That a whole year they'll count back to, but not. Did you planted Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? Nobody knows the difference. So therefore on Shabbos, look, if you did it by accident, so then Yikayim, you can leave it. But b'mezid, of course, ye'aker. Davar acher. Alternatively, nechshadu Yisrael ala Shvius v'lenechshadu ala Shabbosos, that the Yidden are a little bit suspect when it comes to Shemitah. Maybe they're not following it properly, so therefore we have to be stringent and say bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid ye'aker. Whereas by Shabbos, people are generally stringent when it comes to Shabbos, and therefore, we could say, look, b'shogeg yikayim, you could leave it. Now, my davar acher, how come we needed that second opinion, that second explanation? How come the first explanation didn't suffice? to say that people count back to Shemitah, but they don't count back to Shabbos. Well, this is what it means. V'chi teima, and if you're going to say, what do you mean? People also count back to Shabbos. When do they count back to Shabbos? Shabbos nami zimnin demikla yom lamid b'Shabbos. Sometimes if day 30 is on Shabbos, the inota yoma, that if you plant it on that day, hu desalka leishata, then it would count as a year. V'ilo lo salka leishata, if you didn't plant on that day, if it was a day later, so then, or earlier, I guess, later, so then the year would not count. Who could tell me what that means? Think back to Masechta Rosh Hashanah. So if Shemitah is coming, if the year of Shemitah is coming, so Shloshim Yom B'Shana Chashuvin Shana, that 30 days in a year is already considered like a whole year. So if you planted this plant 30 days before Rosh Hashanah on Shemitah, so then it's considered like it's already a year old, and you can be mekayim it during Shemitah. So there 30 days is important, because if you got 30, if it was 30 days before, so then you can keep it. It's considered a whole year. If it's if it's less than 30 days before, so then it's not considered a year. So in that context, 30 days is actually important. You might actually count back from Rosh Hashanah 30 days to find out when you actually planted it. And if it turns out it's Shabbos, people are going to think, oh, I guess you're allowed to plant on Shabbos. So if you're going to say that there is a context in which people may count back to Shabbos, and that's before Rosh Hashanah of Shemitah, and therefore, so maybe you'll say that we should also be machmir then when it comes to Shabbos. So you know what, I'll give you another answer, Davar Acher, that people are more stringent and more liable when it comes to to be Shomer Shabbos than to be stringent and follow all the halachos of Shemitah, and therefore Shemitah ben b'shogeg ben b'mezid ye'aker, but Shabbos b'shogeg yekayim b'mezid ye'aker. Fine. Where am I? So let's read that again. 3 lines from the top of the page. My davar acher. How come we need a second explanation for Rav Meir? This is what it's saying. V'chi tema Shabbos nami. And if you're going to say, look, also when it comes to Shabbos, zimnin demikla yom lamed b'Shabbos, that sometimes the 30 days prior to Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos. The inota yoma, that if you would have planted on that day, on day 30 prior to Rosh Hashanah, which falls out on Shabbos, hu desalka leishata, then it would count as though it has been planted for a year already. But if you don't plant on that day, you're going to miss out. So it wouldn't be counted as a year. So lo salka leishata. If you don't plant on that day and you wait another day, so it won't count as a year. So people will count back to find out when day 30 is, because that's an important day, and they might find out it's Shabbos, and then people might think that you could plant on Shabbos. So tashma davar acher. Therefore, we have an additional reason that regardless nechshadu Yisrael ala shvius, that the Yidden are suspect when it comes to properly being mekayim the halachos of shvius, v'lo nechshadu ala shabbosos, and they're not suspect when it comes to Shabbosis, and therefore on Shabbos b'shogeg yekayim b'mezid ye'aker, but on Shemitah ben b'shogeg ben b'mezid ye'aker. To Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda lokasha oichet. Rabbi Yehuda is not a kasha. That Rabbi Yehuda said that when it comes to bishul on Shabbos, cooking on Shabbos, ben b'shogeg ben b'mezid, you cannot eat it, at least not on Shabbos. And yet when it comes to Shemitah, Rabbi Yehuda says that b'shogeg yekayim b'mezid ye'aker. So lokash, it's no problem. Ba'asid Rabbi Yehuda, that where Rabbi Yehuda lived. Where did Rabbi Yehuda live? Where did Rabbi Yehuda live? I know he lived in the north. That's where he's buried. Maybe he lived in Yavne. Where did Rabbi Yehuda live? Where did Rabbi Yehuda live? Where did Rabbi Yehuda live, friends? Ba'asid Rabbi Yehuda chamiri lehu shvius. So Shemitah was very strict. They were very strict about shvius by Rabbi Yehuda. Dahu de Omar le'lechaber, because there was a fellow who said to his friend, I guess where Rabbi Yehuda lives, dayar bar dayarta. He was trying to insult his friend, and you said you're a convert, the son of a convertus. Omar le, and the fellow says, onulo achle peri de shvius kavosech. Well, at least I don't eat Shemitah fruit like you do. So there. So we see that where Rabbi Yehuda lived, Shemitah was considered a very serious thing. That it would be an insult if you didn't follow the halachos properly. And therefore, b'shogeg yekayim b'mezid ye'aker. Fine. Toshma, come and here. Ochal trume tmeya. If a fellow eats trume tmeya, okay, right? So Ruvain ate Shimon's Truma Tmeya. Mishalim Chulin Tehorin. He has to pay back Shimon with Chulin Tehorin. Shilem Chulin Tmeim. What if he paid with Chulin Tmeim? Right? So he ate by accident Truma Tmeya, which of course if you eat Truma Tmeya on purpose, chayav something, maybe karis. It's not a good thing. So if he accidentally ate Truma Tmeya, so he's got to pay it back with Chulin Tehorim. Shilem Chulin Tmeim, but if he paid back with Chulin Tmeim, Mau, what's the halacha? Omar Sumchis says Sumchis Mishum Reb Meir, Bishogeg, so if it was an accident, Tashlum of Tashlumin, so then that's fine. B'meizid ain't Tashlum of Tashlumin, but if he did it intentionally, if he intentionally paid it back with Chulin Tmein, so then ain't Tashlum of Tashlumin. So then it doesn't work, and I'll have to pay him back with Chulin Tehorin. Omer, as the Chacham say, I don't really understand why they say what they mean when they say it this way, but Echad Zev Tashlum of Tashlumin, that whether it's B'shogeg, whether it's B'meizid, it's Tashlumin. Because I guess that he's like Mekayim, like he's Me'ikr Adin, he's Mekayim Tashlumin, but B'chozer Mishalim Chulim Tarim, he still needs to pay Chulim Tarim, I guess maybe as a Knas. So we see that according to Reb Meir, if it's B'shogeg, right, so he ate by accident, that's for sure by accident, he ate by accident Truma Tmeya, but now he's supposed to pay back with Chulin Tahorim. If he paid back with Chulin Tmeim, so Reb Meir says if it's B'shogeg B'seder, if it's B'meizid, he's got to pay him back Nochamo with Chulin Tahorim. Whereas the Chacham say Be'etzem, whether it's B'shogeg, whether it's B'meizid, you have to pay him back with Chulin Tahorim. And we ask, B'meizid, Amai ein Tashlum of Tashlumin. If the fellow ate by accident Truma Tmeya, and he pays him back with Chulin Tmein, why is that a problem, even if he does it on purpose? Tavu alav bracha, he should receive a blessing. Because after all, the kohen had Truma Tmeya. You can't eat Truma Tmeya ever, even if you're Tameh. Even a kohen who's Tameh cannot eat Truma Tmeya. So this fellow comes and by accident he eats this Truma Tmeya, and he pays him back with Chulin Tmein. He's paying him back with something that he could technically eat, right? Chulin Tmein, he can eat when he is Tameh. So why are we saying if he did it b'meizid, then we punish him and he's got to pay with Chulin Tehorin? He's doing a good thing for the guy. The guy had Truma Tmei that he could do nothing with, and he's getting Chulin Tehorim, Chulin Tmein, which he can at least eat if he's Tameh. V'amar Rave, and says Rave, v'amrila Kedi, and some say it's not tak, it wasn't quoted by anybody. Chasur mechsov achi katani, it's missing some words. Achal Truma Tmeya, that if he ate Truma Tmeya, well then Mishalim Koldu, he could pay back any Chulin, whether it's Chulin Tehorim, whether it's Chulin Tmein, he could pay back. And that is fine, because after all, what he ate by accident, the Truma Tmeya, the kohen couldn't do anything with. Ochal Truma Tehora. Now, but if he eats Truma Tehora, Mishalim Chulin Tehorim, he's got to pay back with Chulin Tehorim. Shilem Chulin Tmein, but if he pays back with Chulin that are Tmein, well then, Ma'u, what's the halacha? Sumchis Omer Mishum Reb Meir says Sumchis the name of Reb Meir B'shogeg Tashlum of Tashlumin. If he does it by accident, so it's okay. If B'meizid ain't Tashlum Tashlum, but if he intentionally paid him back with Chulin Tmein, so then it doesn't work. The Chacham say Echad Zev Tashlum of Tashlumin, that whether he pays him with Chulin Tehorim, whether he pays him with Chulin Tmein, it technically works to satisfy his obligation. But B'chozer Mishalim Chulin Tehorim, he nonetheless pays Chulin Tehorim. He still pays him the Chulin Tehorim. Fine. V'amar Rav Acha Breid Rav Ika, and here's the kasha. V'amar Rav Acha Breid Rav Ika. Rav Acha Breid Rav Ika says Hacha b'konsu shogeg atu meizid ike benayu. The nafkamina between Reb Meir, who says that b'shogeg it's okay, right? Meaning if he ate truma tahora, and he pays back with chulin tamein. So Reb Meir had said that if it's b'shogeg, it's beseder. If it's b'mezid, he has to pay him nachamo. Whereas the chacham say either way he's got to pay nachamo, chulin tahorin. So, and says Rav Acha Brei de Rav Ika that the nafkamina between Rav Meir and the chacham is bekansinan shogeg atu mezid. That both Rav Meir and the chacham hold that if intent, right, well, both the chachamim and Rav Meir hold that technically speaking, by paying him back with chulin timein, it satisfies the obligation. Technically speaking, it satisfies the obligation. However, if he intentionally paid him back with chulin timein, so both Rav Meir and the Chacham agree that if he did it intentionally, so then he has to pay him back with chulin tahorim. And the question between, right, the difference between Rav Meir and the Chacham is if he did it by accident. The Chacham say, look, we find him also by, if he does it by accident on account of when he does it on purpose. Rav Meir says no. If he does it by accident, he is potter. So what do we see? So we see that Me'ikra Din, he is Yotzezan when he pays the guy back with chulin tmein, and it's only midirabanon that we make him pay him back with chulin tahorim. And yet we're saying that Rav Meir says that b'shogeg he's potter and b'mezid he's chayiv, and yet we had said yesterday that according to Rav Meir, when it comes to dirabonons, divrei sofrim tzurichin chizik, we have to be more stringent, which is why he says that by metame and by medameya, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid chayiv, because they're dirabonon, and yet over here we see that we're talking about a payment that's dirabonon. And still, right, because Meikra Din, even with the chulin tmein, he's yotzezan, and still Rav Meir is making a distinction. He's saying b'shogeg potter, b'mezid chayiv. So we're saying, yeah, but the difference is over here. Here the guy's trying to pay somebody back, right? He accidentally ate his truma, and he's trying to pay him back. He's trying to do something good. On a nekum v'likanse, what we're gonna unnecessary, right? He's trying to pay the guy back. We're gonna unnecessarily fine him. When it comes to mitame, when it comes to midameya, there's no good result over there. So therefore, Reb Meir says over there, so it says bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid. He has to pay him back. But when it comes to over here, he's trying to do something good. He's trying to pay the guy back. He says, look, if it's an accident, it's fine. Right? If it's b'mezid, so then you have to pay chulin tahorim. Tashma, come in here. Dam she nitma. If you have blood that became tamei on a korban, I believe a korban sibur in the Beis Hamikdash, v'zarko, and a kohen threw it on the mizbeach nonetheless. B'shogeg, if it was a mistake, hortza, so then the tzitz is miratze, the mezid lo hortza. But if he did it intentionally, if he intentionally threw tamei blood on the mizbeach, so then the tzitz is not miratze. Now, of course, mida oraisa, the tzitz is miratza, whether it's b'shogeg, whether it's b'mezid, it doesn't make a difference. But if it's b'mezid, then we find him. So we see that here it is dirabanan, because mida oraisa, the tzitz is miratza. The tzitz miratza means that the fact that the Kohen Gadol is wearing the tzitz. I think we've seen before the shaila of, if it's bein b'mitzcha miratza, right, bein b'mitzcha lo miratza, al mitzcha, whatever. But anyways, be'etzem, the tzitz that the Kohen Gadol wears is miratza for tumas hakodshim. So mida oraisa, the tzitz kind of fixed it. But midirabanan, we find him if he did it intentionally. So we see that by dirabbanans, we're making this distinction between shogeg and mezid. So Rav Meir would say to you, over here, the fellow is trying to get the fellow is trying to get kapara. Ono nekum v'nikanse, right? So again, the person here is trying to do something good. He's trying to bring a korban, and accidentally the blood was on the mizbeach tamei. So we're not going to fine him. Midaraisa maker adin. The tzitz was miratze. So he's trying to do something good. We're not gonna fine him. Tashma, come here. Hama'asa b'Shabbos b'shogeg yochel. So again, a fellow who separates meiser on Shabbos. We don't separate meiser on Shabbos because it's like like fixing the food. We don't do that on Shabbos. But yochel, if you did it by accident, yochel, but mezid lo yochel, and on purpose, it cannot be eaten. So again, this is derabanan. Midoraisa, you could separate truma on you can separate truma and meiser on Shabbos. And yet, so it's midrabanan that we don't, and we're making a distinction between shogeg and mezid. So again, over there he's trying to do something good. He's trying to, separate Chumas and Maisis. He's trying to do a mitzvah. That's a good thing. He did it he didn't realize that he can't do it on Shabbos, or that it wasn't Shabbos. He did it by accident. We're not going to find him. Tashma, come in here. Amad bil kelim b'Shabbos, a fellow who takes vessels to the mikveh on Shabbos b'shogeg. If it's by accident, yishtamish ben, you can use it on Shabbos, but mezid lo yishtamish ben. But if you did it intentionally, then you cannot use it. So again, this is midrabanan. Midoraisa, if you tovel something on Shabbos, it's Torah, but it works. But midrabanan, we don't do it because it's like you're fixing the vessel, and we see we're making a distinction between shogeg and mezid. So nachamo achi ashtasim, when it comes to taking something to the mikveh, a vessel to the mikveh, gavil tahuri monei kamichavin onen leikum v'likanse. The fellow is coming to do something good. He's coming to retire his kalim, and now because he made a mistake, we're gonna fine him. So in those cases, that's why we could say if it's by accident, we leave him alone. Okay. Virami de Rabbi Yehuda ad Rabbi Yehuda, and we have a kasha of Rabbi Yehuda onto Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda had said that when it comes to dirabonons, we don't make gezeres, right? Rabbi Yehuda has said that when it comes to dirabonons, we don't make this gezerah. Meaning, when it comes, Rabbi Yehuda had said that when it came to mitame and midameya and oichet menasech, he said that b'shogeg potter b'mezid chayev. So we said because by dirabonons we don't have to make a knas by shogeg. So now when it comes to dirabonons, the Tanya we learn in the Brisa naflu v'nispatzu. Okay, so if you have a nut is considered a choshev azach. Nuts, it's 25% of my diet, right? Apples, soup, salad, nuts. So I'm looking at some nuts right now. So nuts are a choshev azach. Go to Shuk Machne Yehuda, you buy nuts, and so if a nut falls into a bunch of other nuts, a nut of orla falls into a bunch of other nuts, so now, so then it can never be bottled, because a nut is so choshev, it can never be bottled. But if it breaks and then falls into a bunch of other nuts, well, then it could be bottled 200 parts of chulin to 1 part orla. But what if it fell into the mixture when it was a complete nut, and then it broke? Okay, then it broke apart. So naflu v'nispatzu, if the nut fell into the rest of the nuts and then broke up, echad shogeg v'echad mezid, whether he broke it by accident or whether it was on purpose, lo yailu divrei Meir. Rabbi Meir says it cannot be bottled. Divrei Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir are saying that whether it's shogeg, whether it's mezid, it cannot become bottled. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, whereas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say b'shogeg, if it was an accident, yailu, then it could become bottled 200 parts to 1. B'mezid lo yailu. But if it was intentional, if he dropped the nut in and then intentionally broke it so that it will be bottled, so then it doesn't work. Okay, it can't become bottled. So now over here, the midoraisa chad betray bottle. Now midoraisa meikar adin, 2 against 1 is bottle, right? You have 2 nuts of chulin and 1 nut of orla falls in. The nut of orla is bottle. There's no concept of 200 parts to 1. There's no concept of something that's choshev cannot be bottled. Those are all derabanan things. So here we're discussing a din derabanan. A nut falls into a bunch of other nuts and it's orla, and it's so now and then it breaks apart, and we want, and Rabbi Yehuda is saying, along with Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, lo yailu. So we see that even by the Rabbanans, Rabbi Yehuda is not making a distinction between shogeg and mezid. V'Rabbanu de Gazer, it's only the rabbis who come up with this inyan of choshev, but maker a din, right? It would be bottle even 2 against 1. V'Kakanis Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda is nonetheless making a knas and saying that bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, he's chayiv, right? Lo yailu. So also ma'anu time with Rabbi Yehuda mishum de'asili arume. Well, the reason why when it comes to the nut, Rabbi Yehuda is stringent is because then you might be sneaky, right? You might drop, right? The nut drops into the rest of the chulin, and then you crush it intentionally, so that it will be bottle. And then you'll say, oh, it was an accident. It's because you might be sneaky. So then, so therefore we say, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, we can't trust you, and it's not bottle. V'rami de Rabbi Yossi, and you can also ask a kasha of Rabbi Yossi unto himself. The Tanan is within the mission, and Netiya shel orla, v'shel kilei akerim. If you have a plant of orla, or if you have a plant of kilei akerim, shenis ayva b'netiyos acheres that got mixed together with other plants. Okay, so let's say you have, let's say 1 vine of grapes that gets mixed together, and it's orla. And it gets mixed together with 200 other vines of orla. So I believe that because it's planted, it cannot become bottle. And now all of the 201 are problematic because it's not bottle. So Netiya shel orla v'shel kilei akerim, or of kilei akerim, both of them are bottle in 200 parts to 1 midrabanan. Shenisa'arvu b'netiyos acheres, that got mixed together with other plants. You can't, gather the fruits, because then once it's gathered, it will be bottled 200 parts to 1. But when it's in the tree, in the vine, so then it's not bottled. But if you did gather them, okay, fine. So then the orla will be bottled, or the kilei akerim will be bottled 200 parts to 1, as long as you did not intend, as long as that's not your intention. Rabbi Yossi Omer Afa Miskavin Delaket Yalu Bechur Masai. Whereas Rabbi Yossi says, even if you did intend to gather the fruits intentionally, knowing that they'll then be bottled, that's okay. So now Rabbi Yossi had said when it came to the nut, he said that if it's b'shogeg, it could be bottle, but if it's b'mezid, it can never be bottle. And yet over here he's saying, whether it's b'shogeg, whether it's b'mezid, it can be bottle. So Itmar Allah Amar Rava taught about it, Chazaka in Adam Oser is Kaimo b'netiya achas. Well, the thing is, a person would not be so silly as to ruin his entire vineyard because of 1 plant, right? He's got a vineyard of 200 plants, and now he's got a great idea. Why doesn't he plant a new one, which is now going to make his entire vineyard unusable? That sounds like a terrible idea, and it's a very uncommon idea because somebody is not going to do that. And if he does, he'll make some kind of marking so that he'll know which one is the orla one. But he's not going to kind of create a humongous loss for himself. A person is not going to make his entire vineyard, have to treat it like orla because of 1 thing that he's going to plant. And therefore, because it's an uncommon case, we don't make a gezerah to fine you in that case. But I guess dropping some orla into some other stuff is a more common case. But ruining your entire vineyard is not a common case, and therefore the rabbis did not make a gezerah, and therefore you could be mevatel. Therefore, you could be mevatel the fruits, even if you collected them on purpose. Okay, I think I know what that sound was just now. I think it was like a big truck parked out right outside my bedroom window. Right before I went to sleep, I was hoping that they weren't going to move it while I was sleeping, because they would definitely slam that was going to be a noisy truck, and they would wake me up. And I noticed it was still there, but I think maybe they just went to move it now, which was the noise. So I'm happy I wasn't sleeping at the time. All right. Now, now we get to a new Mishnah. I'm telling you, these are big dafs. Big dafs, they take a while, Big dafs, they take a while. I think the next part should kind of move. Okay. Deep breath. Okay. HaKohanim shepoglu b'mikdash mizidin chayovin. So if you have Kohanim, and they're doing the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, and they had an intention, right, when they did shchita, kabbalah, zrika, olacha, to eat the korban outside of its proper time. That's what's called pigul, and you're not allowed to eat it. I believe if you eat it, it's kares. So HaKohanim shepoglu b'mikdash mizidin chayovin. So if they did it on purpose, then they have to pay back the owners of the korban. And if they did it by accident, then they're p'turin. Taner Rabbanon. The Rabbi said, "Osa imo b'tyrus." If Ruvain was separating Shimon's trumas and maisus for him, v'omar lo, and he says to while he's separating the truma, he says to Shimon, "Tyrus shasisi imcha nitmu," that your truma. Well, actually, so the shaila is if it's tochi there or not. Okay, fine. So if Ruvain is separating Shimon's truma for him, and then he says to Shimon that the truma is tamei. Or Ruvain is a kohen and he's offering Shimon's korban for him, and he tells Shimon that the korban is pigul. Ne'eman, he is believed. But if Ruvain says to Shimon, nitmu. But if he says that the trumas that I separated for you a few days back are tmein, right, became tamei, or the korban that I offered for you on a certain day was pigul, eino ne'eman, he is not believed in that case. Maishna, ratio, maishna sefer. What's the difference between the first cases and the second cases? Amar Abaye says Abaye kol shebiyodo ne'eman. The difference is if it's still in his hand or not, right? So the first cases, we're talking about when Ruvain was still in the middle of doing it, right? He was still, in the middle of separating Shimon's truma, and he tells Shimon that it became tummy. Or if he's still in the middle of offering Shimon's korban, and he tells Shimon that the korban is pigul. So then he's believed. Rava says no, it can even be after the fact, but could go into ashkeche v'lo amar le v'lo midi. That, right, ulvasur achi ashkeche v'amar le. That Rava says is talking about a case where Reuven had seen Shimon since then, right? Reuven separated Shimon's truma or offered a korban for him, and then they saw each other afterwards. Reuven didn't mention anything, and then later on he mentions something. That's where he's not believed. Okay, right. Then another time he sees him and mentions it, then he's not believed. How would the amle lechavre? A fellow said to his friends, "Tyrus shasisi imcha biyom ploni nitmu." Right, Reuven says to Shimon, the tyrus that I was separating truma for you the other day, they became tummy. Also, the Chama to Rabami, so Shimon comes to Rabami. And Rabami says, look, Me'ikar Adin, Reuven is not believed because it happened, in the past. Omar Lifonov, Rabasi, but Rabasi says to Rabami, Rebbe, Ata Omerkein, do you really say this? Hachi Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Or maybe it's not a kasha, maybe it's saying, right, Rebbe Ata Omerkein, you say this, Hachi Omer Rabbi Yochanan, but this is what Rabbi Yochanan said, Mishum Rabbi Yossi, the name of Rabbi Yossi, Ma'ese, what can I do? Shatorah eminasu. But at the end of the day, the Torah believes Reuven to say that on a certain day, the Truma became Tameh. Heichan eminasu, where does the Torah believe him? Omer Bitzlik bar Bisna, Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippurim yochiach, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. The Chi Omer Pigul mehemon, that when he says, if the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur says that when he was offering the korbanos, he had thoughts of outside of its proper time, right? Pigul thoughts. So then, but aren't they entirely offered? I don't know. But anyways, if somehow his korbanos become pigul, mehemin, he is believed. How do we know that it became pigul? But the pasuk says nobody goes in with him. So how are we going to know that it became pigul? Rather, it must be because he's believed after the fact. because he's believed after the fact. That after the fact he could say that it was pigul. So there you go. That you're believed even after the fact. V'dilma d'shmayne de pogil. To which the Gemara says, how do you know that the Kohen Gadol is telling us after the fact? Maybe they heard him at the time that he was doing the avodah l'fnai v'l'fnim. It was quiet and everybody's listening and they hear, Dal! Freaking pigul. And they're like, ooh, yikes. Ilav de Mehemen was right, so maybe they heard him. But still, even so, Ilav de Mehemen, if not for the fact that it's believed after the fact, Afagav de Shmaine Nami, Lo Mehemen de Dilma, the Vasar Achi Kamer. But still, maybe when he said, Dal freaking pigul, maybe that was after he was done. Right? We're going to have to trust him because again, nobody else is inside, so nobody sees what's going on. So we still are going to have to trust him after the fact that when they heard him, it was at the time that he was doing the right. Meaning that we're still going to have to trust him after the fact that when they heard him, he was referring to at the time. So okay. But then the Gemara asks V'dilma the Chazini b'pishpish. But maybe there were like these like little doorways that you could see what's going on inside. So maybe through the doorways they saw that he was that the pigul happened while he was doing it. So Kasha says Taka a good point. Yeah, maybe it's not a proof, the definitive proof that the Kohen Gadol was believed after the fact. Dude, I'm like exhausted, man. It's like a marathon daf. I don't know why. I don't even think it's like that long, but it's just. When you use your head for so long, you just kind of like, eventually your head just like says, all right, I'm out. Something like that. Yeah. It's very weird. Yeah. Man. When it comes to like Gemara, at a certain point, like if I have to use my brain for too long, my brain's just like, all right, I had enough. Like, I don't really get with that with like coding or anything like that. Well, sometimes I do actually. That's only if it's really, really hard. But yeah, at a certain point with like Gemara, my brain's just like, all right, I had enough. I'm not working anymore. All right. How would also the Kame de Reb Ami? A certain fellow came before Reb Ami, Omarle, and he says to Reb Ami, Sefer Torah shekosavti lefloni, that I wrote a Sefer Torah for a fellow. As kor shelo lo kosavtim lishman, but all the names of God I didn't write lishma. I didn't write with the proper intention. So Omarle, Sefer Torah biad mi. So now Reb Ami says, where's the Sefer Torah? And the scribe says, the buyer has it right now. So meaning he's basically coming after the fact and saying that the Sefer Torah is possible because the names of God are not written lishman. Reb Ami says, yeah, okay, you're believed, so you can't get paid for your work because the Sefer Torah is possible. But you are not believed to possible the Sefer Torah. Okay. Since it's after the fact. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah, so Rabbi Yirmiyah says to Rabbi Ami, Nihide hifsid schar azkar, schar de Sefer Torah kule mi hifsid. But Rabbi Ami asks, Rabbi Yirmiyah asks Rabbi Ami, he says, granted that, he wrote an entire Sefer Torah, he only messed up with the names of God. So why not just subtract, the amount of work that goes into writing the names of God, and then let him get paid for the rest? So Amalei Rabbi Ami says, look, even so, you can't get paid for any of it. Shekol Sefer Torah she'en azkarish lo ksuvus lishman. If you have a Sefer Torah that the names of God are not written lishman, eino shava klum. It's useless. It's a possible Sefer Torah. So it's all or nothing. If the names of God are written shelo lishman, so then he didn't create any value for the buyer, so he can't get paid anything. But still, okay. Even so, let the scribe take his feather, his quill, and go over all the names of God, and that should fix it. So, Kiman name it to Lo Rabbi Yehuda. So, for the fact that we're saying that we're not suggesting that he do that, sounds like this is unlike Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you can do that. The Tanya is written in the Brayso, Ayut Tzarich Lichtov Es Hashem. A fellow who needed to write Yud Kei Vav Kei, and Iskavin Lichtov Yehuda, but he made him, but for whatever reason, even though he had to write Yud Kei Vav Kei, for whatever reason, he thought that he had to write the word Yehuda. V'tav v'lo hitil bodal, but he made a mistake and didn't write Yehuda. He actually wrote Yud Kei Vav Kei. So in the end, it all worked out, right? But the thing is, he had intention to write Yehuda. It just happens to be that it turned out that that he wrote Yud Kei Vav Kei, but that wasn't his intention. So Mavir Olav Kumus Makasha to Yehuda. So Yehuda says, okay, no big deal, just go over it, trace over it, and then right Lishma, and then it's fine. The Chacham say it's not ideal. So says the Gemara, look, Afilu Tamer Rabbi Yehuda, you can even say that Rabbi Yehuda would say that in this case, when all of the Azkaros in the Torah were written Shalol Lishman, it would not work, because Adkan lo ka'am Rabbi Yehuda ela b'chada Azkar. Rabbi Yehuda says that you could trace over one name of God, but Rabbi Yehuda would not suggest that you can go over the entire Sefer Torah and over all the Yud Kei Vav Keis in the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah is going to look like a leopard. It's not going to be a very beautiful Sefer Torah, and therefore even Rabbi Yehuda would say that it's not okay. And that's why Rabbi Ami said, look, you can't get paid for this because you didn't provide any value. Okay. I would also look at a certain fellow came to Rabbi Amarle, and he says to Rabbi Sefer Torah shekosafti lefloni gvilin shelo lo ibadtim lishman. He says that the parchment itself, that the margins were not tanned lishman. And therefore what he's saying is that the entire Sefer Torah is possible. Amarle Sefer Torah biad mi, and Rabbi says, who has to say, where's the Sefer Torah now? Amar biad lokeach. The scribe says the purchaser has it. Amar lo, and Rabbi says, mitoch sha'atanem lafsid schorcha, since you are believed to lose your own reward, atanem lafsid Sefer Torah, you're also believed to lose the Sefer Torah, and that the Sefer Torah is possible, if I'm not mistaken. Now, why is this different than Reb Ami's case? In Reb Ami's case, he said you can't get your payment, but the Sefer Torah is, you can't. We don't trust you to disqualify the Sefer Torah. So, but over here we're saying that we do disqualify you. We do disqualify the Sefer Torah. So, Hasam Ikad Lemema, we could say Taibid Reb Yirmiyah, that the fellow made a mistake with Reb Yirmiyah, that he was being completely dishonest. Right? The Reb Yirmiyah said that even though you can't get paid for suggested that maybe since, you can't get paid for the names of God, but you can get paid for the rest of it. So maybe this guy was just trying to be dishonest or something. And I don't know, apparently maybe, I don't know, it's a weird answer. I don't really get it. Maybe he's not really telling the truth, right? Meaning maybe he thought that he was just going to come and say that the names of God were not written in the Shema, but at least he'll be able to collect the rest of it. Maybe he's just being dishonest, and therefore we can't trust him to passel the Sefer Torah. Okay. But over here, Kevin the Kamafsid Kule Agre, since he's already saying that the Gevilim were written Shalol Lishman, were tan Shalol Lishman, and he's saying the entire Sefer Torah is possible, I have no hope of getting anything back from it. Also, and he nonetheless came, V'amar Amor Kushta Ka'amar. So I'll say that he's telling the truth, and therefore we could say, yeah, he doesn't get his payment, and the Sefer Torah is also possible. Alright, friends, that was Daf Mem Nun Daled of Masechta Gittin. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.